Welcome back everyone to Nikke, Reborn Evil. We begin with a news report that several people have gone missing in recent weeks. The first case was a man named Miles Carter, who was a former commander, last seen leaving his home at around 11 PM, who also doesn't have a leg and suffers from a history of alcohol abuse, who was also undergoing counselling at a counselling centre. Cases 2 and 3, we do not care about. Case 4, Iris Monroe, 68 and former nurse, last seen at 10 AM after leaving to attend a gathering with acquaintances. After an inspection by the police, they noticed that the entire family seems to have gone missing. And no little information, there was no signs of a forced entry and a rapture part was found in the basement. They were also unable to verify the details of the gathering with acquaintances. The rapture part was placed on some kind of altar, but for what purpose? Conspiracy theories suggest that the groundwork is being laid for a second Ark terror attack, fueling widespread anxiety amongst the general populace. Case 5, 6 and 7 we also don't care about. Case 8 though was Elseria 9, female 42, a psychological counsellor. They don't exactly know when she went missing, but note that she worked at the counselling centre that the victim from case 1 went to. She also has a daughter named Daipada, who they are unable to contact, and also assume she is missing. Polly stares at the stack of missing people case files, and then over to a CCTV camera of the gate to the outer rim, where a young girl can be seen sneaking in. Polly identifies her as Daipada, the daughter of the missing woman. Deciding to follow her leads, Polly grabs her sidearm, heading towards the outer rim. With Polly on the case, nothing can go wrong, and she's missing. Confirmed to have been seen, heading towards the outer rim. We cut over to Anderson talking to the commander, informing him that a D-wave has shown up 2 weeks ago, and they're only telling him now. But the reasoning was because the D-wave is formed inside of the Ark, and they don't want to scare the populace. As such, the commander won't be able to take the counters with him. He will need to go with a different group of Nikkes this time. After informing the commander that he will be meeting the new Nikkes in his office / bedroom / outpost, he is to go there immediately and take the documentations with him. He is also to disguise himself as a believer of the Torch of Salvation. For this time, the mission will be an undercover one. Back at the outpost, the commander sits down for a bit, waiting for the other Nikke to arrive, when he recalls a weird altar he saw on the surface, in a clearing, and a blade of an unknown purpose, and people lying around it as if they were asleep. Depending on when this happened, the people were either looking asleep or looking like skeletons. It's who knows. To calm his nerves, the commander makes his way to the bathroom, where he hears the sound of water dripping. Worried that Rappy would kill him for leaving the tap on, he quickly makes his way in, for the dripping to get worse. As he looks into the mirror, his nose is pouring blood, and the sink starts filling. As the commander begins to panic, he is interrupted by Kay. The commander turns around in a shock, and Kay says he's being a little dramatic for her interrupting him. Standing beside Kay is D. These two will be the ones to assist the commander on this mission, and to begin to brief the commander on their task. D gives the commander a list of documentation of all the missing persons and all the information they have collected about the situation. The commander, a quick reader, gets through all of it in no time, as he gets to the last case number of missing Polly, and the government trying to keep it under wraps. Kay then highlights one document for the commander of Case 8, Elseria 9, and Kay informs the commander that Elseria 9 was part of a cult called the Torch of Salvation, that worship raptures. And all the missing cases are all tied to the counselling clinic, and Elseria 9 was part of the Torch of Salvation, a group that worship raptures. For this mission, Kay will go by herself, and D and the commander will infiltrate, acting as a married couple, like usual. After finalising their briefing, D and the commander go to practice their marriage routine. A couple that has fallen on hard times turns to the Torch of Salvation to ease their worries. Once D and the commander have finished practicing, they head out to the outer rim. As they make their way towards the mysterious mansion, the commander remembers one of Kay's warnings A rumor that Kay mentioned that's been circulating the Outer Rim, warning everyone to don't go near the mansion, unless you want misfortune to come your way. The commander sees an umbrella logo and remembers what Kay said to him. The commander goes after Dee to stick together. Once he finds Dee, he notes that she has changed back into her usual attire. Due to none of the cult members being around, Dee decides that the marriage routine isn't going to work this time, so they'll have to wait until next time to try again. In the distance, a mysterious woman in red keeps her eyes on them. As they arrive at the mansion, they notice it is in a very deserted and destroyed state. Breaking from horror norms, the two decide to stick together. As they look around, they find a trail of blood. They're leading into the dining room. At the end of the trail, a corpse. As they approach, the commander feels something cold press against his back. The mysterious woman in red is holding a firearm pointed directly at the commander. We then cut over to the destroyed ruins of the ACPU, as Polly has been away for about 15 minutes. Query runs into a worried Miranda, who has been sitting at the desk for quite some time, with a combination of the disappearance of Polly and also being told not to interfere currently, whether through worry for their own safety or everyone else's. Miranda, deciding that she's had enough sitting around, states that she's going to go and find Polly, which Query warns that will cause her to potentially face disciplinary action. Miranda's not worried though. She has filled out so many of those forms she could do them in her sleep now. Convinced, the two then set off to look for Polly in the Outer Rim. Once there, they quickly approach the mansion as Query sees three furry shapes off in the distance and believes Polly might have cloned herself before being told by Miranda that that's not Polly. After the two are attacked by three red-eyed glowing dog creatures, which somehow managed to knock two fully Nikke down, although it is Polly and Miranda, so I guess that makes sense. As they're getting attacked, two other figures fire off guns off in the distance, scaring the dogs off briefly and assisting Query and Miranda. After making their way inside, the four women close the door to the extra dogs that have decided to arrive after the first three got scared off. The one in blue, Jill, feels she is caught in a nightmare. To check, Miranda pinches her own cheek, stating not to worry, it is indeed real. Miranda then offers to pinch Jill's cheek as well if she would like, which Jill politely declines. They are interrupted then by Claire, who wishes them to stop with the banter, and they can pick it up later. After the barking and noise from outside dies down, the four women decide to introduce themselves. Claire stating that she is Claire Redfield, who is looking for her brother Chris Redfield. Query from the ACPU. Miranda, also from the ACPU, both looking for their colleague Polly, are the local police. Claire then asks if they know of her brother Chris, who also works for Raccoon City Police, but they have never heard of him. Jill then interrupts with her own introduction. Her name is Jill Valentine, and the four discussed how they all got here and what their plans will be. Jill and Claire state they were leaving Raccoon City when everything got blurry, and the next thing they know, they were in front of this mansion. We cut back over to the commander and Dee just before they entered the mansion, where the commander is hearing noises of raptures in the fog. However, he's the only one who was able to hear this, as Dee is not able to hear any of the noises that the commander is hearing. After the out of place flashback, we cut back over to Query, Jill, Claire, and Miranda, finishing their discussion of how they all ended up here and what Umbrella Corporation was. Their goal is to first figure out where they are, which Miranda quickly points out that they are in the annex to the mansion, which she read on the emergency exit map, and then points to a bulletin board on the wall, which has a very weird rule: ignore the children crying for help. Claire found that very disturbing. Back over with the commander and Dee and the mysterious woman in red. The commander still has a gun pointed to his back. To de-escalate the situation, Dee pulls the commander away and holds an axe to the mysterious woman's neck. The mysterious woman in turn points her gun at Dee. The two show no fear in their eyes as they threaten each other. Surprisingly, this works, which de-escalates the situation. The commander introduces themselves before they all hear glass shattering somewhere. As they turn to look at where the noise came from, they see the upper body of a mass-produced Nikke fused to something. As the three look at this monstrosity, the mysterious woman says guns will not work on it. Unless you want more of them showing up, follow me. The commander and Dee quickly follow behind to escape the monstrosity that has arrived. As they finally escape, they come across an altar with a rapture core in the middle of it, surrounded by Umbrella Corp logos. The mysterious woman makes her way behind the commander's back, which causes Dee to point her axe in the woman's direction. The woman ignores the axe and brushes the commander's back gently, before putting her hands up, stating that she was just there to pat him on the back, and she didn't have a weapon in her hands. Before introducing herself as Ada, who states she has no real recollection of how she managed to get here. The commander then monologues, filling in Ada on all the information about the situation they are in and how she got there. And Dee and the commander listen to Ada's explanation of what Umbrella Corp is, and what they did to Raccoon City. Dee then steps out for a bit to report to the higher-ups to close the outer room immediately, or else there's a chance that the virus could spread. And if needed, they will mobilize the Blaze Out Squad, a new squad of Nikkes that have flamethrowers. New weapon class? Nah. More Nikkes to add to NPC jail. Once Dee leaves, Ada asks the commander to have a little chat, and asks if they find the person who created the Neo-virus, leave them to her, before sharing a notebook with the commander, written by the head of the Torch of Salvation. The commander, reading through the journal, reads over their goals, to identify those worthy of salvation on the Day of Judgment. 2. Procedure. The participant shall receive the holy elixir of the judge through a purification ritual. The ritual spans 7 days and cannot be halted or abandoned midway. That sounds like an inconvenient ritual. During this period, the body reactions and transformations will be observed. Sounds less like a ritual at this point and more like an experiment, to determine the subject's eligibility for salvation. I'm assuming whether they live or die. And 3. Possible phenomena and side effects. High fever, vomiting and dizziness. Visual and audio hallucinations. Temporary or permanent bodily mutations. Sounds like the commander's been part of this experiment. Also, apparently, this documentation has a clause that all phenomena are deemed divine trials and cannot be defined by mortal interventions if symptoms persist, see your healthcare professional. And at the bottom it says, I hereby acknowledge that I have clearly understood the information stated above. Signed, Miranda. We cut back over to Jill, Miranda, Claire, and Query. Jill is wondering why Miranda is filling out the form that allows them to do experiments on her, to which she states that she is constantly getting told off for not filling out forms properly, so it's become a force of habit, like Pavlov's dog, where she finds a form that's not filled out and she fills it out because she is the one who hasn't filled the form out, as trained into her by Polly. After remembering that they're actually there to look for Polly, Miranda decides that it's not the time to fill out forms. As Miranda heads off, Query says that she is a capable officer, and they should also follow her. Claire then discusses with Jill that the place is covered in Umbrella Corp logos, and that Umbrella Corp must be behind this. To which Query replies that would they be able to elaborate a bit more on that, as she has never heard of this organization before. The discussion is broken by a loud crashing noise, further in the annex, to which Jill says she will go and check it out. Jill arrives at the annex storeroom, with Miranda half buried in books, from a botched attempt to reach the book on the top shelf. Miranda hands Jill the book she was reaching for, which has a series of riddles, and Jill speculates that it has something to do with the statues in this room. Jill warns Miranda not to touch anything, because it could be a trap, as Miranda pulls the levers behind the statues, causing one of the statues to rotate, before a noise can be heard. And Jill warns Miranda that she should stop touching the statues until they figure it out. To which Miranda replies it wasn't her this time, as the two realize that the roof is starting to lower down on them. Jill quickly realizes that answering the riddle incorrectly has caused the trap to activate, so quickly instructs Miranda on which levels to pull to correct the riddle and hopefully prevent the roof from dropping any further. After solving the riddle and the roof returning to its original position, Miranda relaxes and states the last thing she would have wanted was to turn into a sandwich, which Jill agreed with. As the roof returns to its original position, they hear it clicking from behind one of the bookshelves. As the bookshelf opens, it reveals a hidden passageway. The two head down the recently revealed passageway to a very modern-looking research facility, with oversized incubator tubes filled with bodies, and documents with the Umbrella Corporation scattered everywhere. They also discover a badly injured researcher who's been attacked by something. After saying their last words, they collapse, and blood pours from their mouth. Also from the giant hole in their chest, which Probably would have made the talking a lot harder. But it looks like that something has tried to escape. We cut back over to Claire and Query, as Claire has been filling her in on the T-virus and what Umbrella Corp did to Raccoon City. We cut back over to Query and Jill, who are discussing the effects of the T-virus and what it did to Raccoon City, as they search in other parts of the annex, and search through rooms one by one. Under the bed in one of the rooms, they find a notebook. Inside there is a faded photo of a mother and daughter. The photo is of Syria 9 and Daipara. We then cut over to Kay, who has found documentation that the Ark is the one who has encouraged the Torch of Salvation to make people more aware that the Raptures exists and to stop them being so complacent. Kay discovers that X has had their hand in this too. Query and Claire read Daipara's notebook before meeting up with Jill and Miranda and discovering the horrors of the lab, and find a passage leading deeper underground behind the altar, and discover the countdown timer until evil is purified. To change things up, the Commander, D, and Ada read Alicia 9's diary. No one's diary is safe in this world. They too discover the secret passageway behind the altar and head down. As they approach, they hear noise in the distance and run into another, the Miranda, Query, Claire and Jill. As they approach, D finds time to change into Officer Wife. Once into the area under the mansion, they find none other than Polly, who seems a bit out of it. After bringing everyone up to speed on the current situation, along with Daipara, the D-Wave, the T-Virus, the Cult, the Blaze Squad, the Nikke Rapture combos, Polly's attention is drawn to a new character, Agent Winters of BST, of the Biohazard Strike Team. I feel at this point the Biohazard might be Agent Winters herself. They then find out from Polly that Daipara has been taken away by the cult members to be taken to the surface as a sacrifice. The team then break up. D, or Agent Winters, with Ada to go to the lab and shut things down, and everyone else to chase after Daipara. With Polly still being injured, Miranda and Jill take their time to get Polly through the mansion, while also reassuring Miranda she's doing an amazing job. Meanwhile, D and Ada clear out the lab while finding the vaccine from one of the scientists and tying up any loose ends and stopping the countdown until the virus and/or raptures and/or thingy goes horribly wrong before parting ways with each other. Meanwhile, the last group, consisting of the Commander, Claire, and Query, rush towards the elevator, while also encouraging Query that she is too doing a good job just like Miranda. Unfortunately, the morale of the ACPU isn't that high. When we finally get to the elevator that should have been decommissioned, we run into Alicia 9, who's struggling to survive, who is injured and claiming that death is the salvation for her family, while her daughter, Daipara, is in the elevator, surrounded by several dozen bombs. Some strange parenting going on here. Claire, through no fear for her own safety, dives into the elevator to save Daipara, and notices that she may be infected with the virus that turns you into a superhuman zombie. Thankfully, Ada arrives with the vaccine. It is somewhat impressive that even though they went in different directions, and Ada was hacking a computer and also stopping the timer and killing several dozen abominations with D, that they managed to get there about the same time. After injecting Daipara with the vaccine, we cut back to Alicia 9, whose vision begins to fade as she thinks back to when she lost her husband. Kay arrives to the mansion, complaining to D that D was 3 minutes and 50 seconds behind schedule. And what was she planning on doing if Kay hadn't held up Blaze out at the outer rim entrance? Her body slightly singed in several places. D inquires what happened to Kay, but Kay just turns to look at Daipara, who is crying next to her mother's body. D informs Kay though that everything has been wrapped up. Kay replies that Blazeout is still planning on burning the mansion and everything around it to the ground, so they must make their way out of there as soon as possible. We cut back to the surface, where Jill is studying the Torch of Salvation scriptures, and find out that only the documentation from Umbrella Corp had made it to this world, and not Umbrella Corp themselves, much to everyone's relief. After tidying up some loose ends and approaching the altar on the surface, The super cops all get ready to take down the final boss. The Rapture that the Torch of Salvation have been abusing. Merciless Judge, which looks a lot like Gluttony. After making short work of the Rapture, Jill and Claire start to glow. More so than usual in Query and Miranda's eyes. Especially Query's. Everything's always glowing in Query's eyes. After saying their farewells, the two then vanish, back to their own world. Meanwhile, Dee has managed to track down Ada. Ada was wondering what was taking Dee so long, as she'd already found Dee's tracking device some time ago. Dee then asks what Ada has been doing, as she came through 2 weeks earlier, when the D-Wave first showed up, unlike Claire and Jill, who only showed up recently. Dee asks what deal Ada had made to the higher-ups of the central government. Ada, not wanting to give away any information, bids Dee farewell as she too disappears in a bright light. Later, the Commander and Anderson have a discussion about the D-Wave. We get a checkup with Mana and find out Daypara is recovering alright from the virus. She also wants to become a police officer, maybe under Polly, which will double the productivity of the ACPU. And D and K meet up to discuss the documentation Ada had found on the USB in regards to X creating the Torch of Salvation. Well, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Nice work! When I get back, whew, I'm heading straight for the shower.
Do I look like a pushover to you?